Welcome to Stranger Connections, where I celebrate wonderfully weird people and quirky stories. I'm your curious beast and host, and definitely charming Lisa David Olson. And I am a business humorist and interactive speaker. So you want to bring me to your group because a connected team is a productive team. I've never steered anybody wrong, at least that I know of. This week's guest has been called the real life Wizard of Oz by none other than Forbes magazine. No big deal. He's a digital creator, a speaker, an author, a coach, a creative disruptor, and a harsh truth dropper. Please welcome Steve Sims. Thanks for being on Stranger Connections.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Is that good to have the title a harsh truth dropper?
It's better than the Wizard of Oz. I really hated that for many, many years.
And so what does that mean? Did you show up behind a curtain at some point and Forbes
Oh
was like,
God, yeah.
yeah.
No, it's I had for 25 years I was the go-to guy for billionaires when they needed something. I was like the Mr. Fix-It, in classic lines of I know a man, I was that man. And I
You were
just ended
that
up doing
guy.
Yeah, I just ended up doing some pretty amazing things for these clients, never because I wanted to walk the red carpet or hang around with celebrities. In fact, I hated celebrities because they were usually poorer than my clients. But I wanted to be able to speak to these people and just go, how come you're so successful? How do you look at contracts? How do you look at time? Where do you invest your money? So I was very, very curious to deal with hugely successful, billionaire, powerful people. And along the way, Forbes kind of got a sniff of who I was, and they would, incognito, they would ask me, where's the 5 best restaurants in like Monaco, or where's the best club in Marrakesh? And they would always say from, a known insider or from like one of the most connected, they would never give my name. And that was always the point. I didn't mind helping them out, but I would never, ever, I never wanted my name out there. I never wanted that stardom, as it were. And then one day they contacted us and they said, like, we've known each other for years. I've been working with them since the 90s. And this is like now 2007 or something. And they said, we'd like to do like an article on you, the kind of clients you deal with. You keep popping up, and more I was starting to get well known because I was popping up in all of these society events, always in a black t-shirt, always hiding in the background, always trying to cover my face like some kind of weirdo.
Or criminal.
Oh, criminal, yeah. And then one day they said, we're going to do this article on you, exposing this great connector. And I'm like, okay, let's see what that does for business and stuff like that. And then a friend of mine phoned me up, and he was in New York, so I was asleep. And he phoned me up, and I grabbed the phone. And he's like, hey, and I'm like, what's up? Thinking there was a problem because it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. He went, hey, wizard. And I was like, what? He went, hey, whiz. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he went, you're the Wizard of Oz. And he kept on, and he wasn't funny. And then he sent me a text, which was the link that Forbes called me the real life Wizard of Oz. And here's the funny thing. It ended up, I think it was an 8-page article, and it had me with Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Michael. It was massive. It was massive. Had pictures of me with all these famous people. It was a beautiful article. And I lost about 50% of my business by 1 o'clock that day. Because
what does that mean?
Well, all of the powerful people that were my clients didn't want anyone knowing that it was me that was getting them into these things. So
like a mistress.
Yeah, it was all of these phone calls I got going, hey, Steve, welcome, congrats on the article, man. But I can't kind of have you have like I had parties I was going to that weekend. Yeah. And I had people literally retracting my invites going, can't have you there because then they're going to be asking, were you the one that arranged this thing with Elton John or with your Formula One or with Monica? And so I lost a ton of my business. I thought it would be good media, but it ended up for that being bad media. But then I got my first book deal out of it. Simon & Schuster saw it and offered me my first book deal. And that's when Bluefishing, the Art of Making Things Happen came out and became a very shocking hit. So, it was good and bad.
Yes, I looked up Bluefishing. You've got a lot of reviews on that, and it's been out how long? A few years?
That one's been out 7 years. My second one came out last year, which I never thought I'd write, called Go for Stupid, The Art of Achieving Ridiculous Goals. And, that one's also done pretty well. So people are avoiding doing the simple stuff to create the maximum impact.
Well, going back to what you do with billionaires, so what is
Mhm.
it that you do now that you've been exposed by Forbes and their 8 pages of telltales? So
Well,
what is it you would do with the billionaires? I mean, it sounds like I know I saw a picture of you with Steven Tyler. I don't recognize
mhm.
all the famous people you're with because I'm not that well bred, but I recognize Steven Tyler. And what is it you were doing for them?
So you got to go back a little bit further. I was a bricklayer from East London. So I didn't have
Okay.
any money. This was in the 90s. So I didn't have Instagram to show me how inadequate my life was. So I just knew I never had any money. And none of my mates had any money. So, and we didn't have podcasts. And also, anyone over the age of 25 will remember the fact that back in the 90s, if you were an entrepreneur, this meant that you were probably a criminal or you couldn't get a real job. It was not
Hmm.
revered like it is now.
Good point. That's a
And
good
so, in
point.
which case, I didn't know these answers and I had nowhere to find them out. So, I was working on on the door of a club. I was the scary bouncer, if you can believe that.
I believe
And
it.
yeah, and so I started getting people into clubs and parties literally just to have a chat with them. So if I saw a guy drop a black card, I would literally go, "Oh, there's a new nightclub opening up Thursday. Are you going to it?" And he'd be like, "No, I don't know how to." Let me get you in, and I'd get him in. And then the following day, I'd say to him, "Hey, let's grab a cocktail, whatever drink." And I'd be like, "Did you enjoy the party?" He'd be like, "Yeah, great. Thanks for pulling that." And I'd be like, "By the way, what is it you do?" And I was trying to get the information. And so the more successful people that I was bumping into, if I only had to do whatever it was, get you a fantastic safari or get you to hang out in the Accademia de Galleria at the feet of Michelangelo's David, or to sing with Andre, but if I had to do that just to get an hour of Elon Musk, Elton John, Richard Branson, these people's time, then I was doing it. And so that's what I did for 25 years. I was the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with very large checkbooks.
Simply because of your tenacity to connect and to
Mm,
be that person, because we didn't have social media, but you
we
paid
didn't.
attention and you cared, and like you said, you're just perpetually curious, and
Oh,
therefore you're
yeah.
able to make connections and make a whole career out of it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a career. That was quite a blind side. I was making money because I was a great believer. If they don't pay, they don't pay attention. So if you give it to someone for free, that's how much they're going to value it at. So
Yes.
I had no problem turning around to my clients going, "Hey, I'll get you into that on Friday. But look, I want to look after the people that are making it happy. So $500 and everyone should be sweet." Of course, it went from $500 to 5 million. So the price is wavered, but I was always very, very focused on the fact that if I didn't charge you, and also I wasn't charging you the time that it took me to do it, I
Right.
was charging you the time that it took me to establish a relationship to be
Yes.
able to do it in that time. So I was always pricing accordingly, never had fee phobia, but it was always a Trojan horse. I'll get you to do this because I secretly want to have an hour with you in a few days' time. And so, it just grew. I would say, and you mentioned it earlier, curiosity is one of the common factors I've noticed across all the most successful people. But another one that works in unison with that is aggravation. Now, it sounds funny to think of Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and some of the most powerful people that you've never heard of being aggravated when they're billionaires. But aggravation creates you to do something. If you're sitting at home and you go, "Oh, God, there's a spot on the wall. Oh, that bothers me." If you're not aggravated to do anything about it, the following day you're still going to be moaning about it. So aggravation is what causes you to get up and go, "I've got to paint over that." So when you're curious and you go, "Well, why doesn't this work?" Then the aggravation pops in and goes, "Well, let me make it work." And when you marry those two things together, anything can happen.
Curiosity plus aggravation equals creation.
Oh, there
Steve
you go.
Sims. That's you. That's you, bro.
That's my
I
new
just wrote it
t-shirt.
down. That is beautiful. Yeah, a new black t-shirt. Black printing.
Yeah.
I think that's great. From bouncer to a billionaire concierge. I have a note here that you took, this is something random I'm just going to toss out there. You took a submarine trip to view the actual Titanic.
Yeah, yeah. More importantly, thankfully, it came back. Because sadly, the recent one
Spoiler.
didn't. Yeah. No, we actually went down just after James Cameron was going down there to do the movie The Titanic. We found out that he was going down there, and we actually were able to kind of get clients to ride down in the submersible to actually go down to see the actual wreck of the Titanic on the seabed and then back again. It was like 2.5 hours. Can you believe it? In a tiny little pod, 5 people
Oh,
to get all the way down there in complete and utter darkness
it's
to be able to
wild.
get down there. Then they would see it for a couple of hours and then they would come up for it. So you imagine 6 hours you're in a pod, and if you need the toilet, it's in a little bucket. So this was a
Oh,
very strange thing to do. So yeah.
and they must have prepped you for that. Like, and
Oh
by the
yeah.
way, Steve, don't go to Taco Bell before we get into the submarine.
Well, it was the funny thing. So on the day that I was supposed to go down there, I had a fill-in put in.
Oh,
Okay. Not on the day, but like about 3 days prior to me going down. So when I went on there, when we went onto the vessel itself, the Keldish, they go through medical, anything happen, what you got going on. So I had this fill-in popped in. They said you can't go down. And I said, why can't I
oh,
go down there? And they said, the pressure will pop that filling out.
no.
I'm like, you're kidding. They're like, no, the pressure in there, we try to do everything about it, but the pressure is going to be quite hard. To give you an example, the submersible that was attached to the ship, the Keldish, that would sink you down, the original one that would take you down, had these massive gray bubble windows on them.
Mm-hmm.
Massive gray bubble windows. And as the submarine would actually go down, the submersible would sink, water would start to leak in. Okay, tiny little bits of water would leak in. The pressure got so much that those bulging windows would flatten out and seal into the rubber to seal all of the water. So as you were down there, the
Wow.
actual side is flat, and when it comes out there, they would then come out again, and a little bit of the water would start to bubble down. If you didn't allow for that pressure, would have cracked.
Dang. And so wouldn't that be the same as with an airplane, but opposite? You would think.
Probably, I would imagine so. Although the pressure is supposed to be greater when you're because bearing in mind you're up there, you're in
Mm,
atmosphere and you're in air.
mm.
Down there, you've got tons and tons and tons and tons of water pressure on you.
Wow.
And if you stepped out of that one, as you know, if you stepped out of that submersible, if you were able to just like open the door and step out, you would be squashed in nanoseconds. The
Unreal.
pressure is incredible. That, believe it or not, that's why they go down to the Titanic, because the Titanic had so many different materials on it: wood, gold, porcelain, silver, copper. They want to see how that has reacted to no light and pressure. And they've seen some things have actually just disintegrated, and some things have been held up perfectly, and some things have been cocooned that if they came back up away from that pressure, they would disintegrate before they got to the top.
Never knew that. That's
That's why.
fascinating.
Yeah, that's why it's so important as a researcher. It's also one of the largest single graves. But it's that's one of the main reasons it is so much used for research because of the materials.
Unbelievable. And did you see something? Did you see a dish or something
Well,
that
now that it's actually registered as a graveyard, you're not allowed to actually raid a graveyard. Everyone knows that, and so
right.
there are laws that you can do that. So they have to apply for certain permission to bring certain things back. So you see things like a little leather shoe, or you'll see a fork, or things like that. But one of the things that I really like, it's a bit gimmicky, and they've never been able to repeat it since they stopped doing that mere submersible, was they would have, the 20-ounce cups you get from like 7-Eleven that you put your super Slurpees in, the little styrofoam cups.
Yeah.
So what they would do the night before is they would actually get these massive, great styrofoam cups and they would draw pictures on them with all of these markers. All right. This is true. You can actually Google it. And they would draw all of these pictures on these styrofoam cups. Then when they got out to do the submersible the following day, they would put all of these cups in like a fisherman's net and tow it down behind the submersible. Now, as the air got sucked out of the depths and the pressure got so huge, by the time they got back up, those 20-ounce cups were like a shot glass and rock hard with your drawing on it.
Wow.
That's one of the little gimmicks they used to give to people when they used to come back from the Titanic. But bearing in mind, more people have been up into space, have been, walked the moon than actually been down in the Titanic.
So it's very protected, I'm sure.
Very protective,
Yes.
very, very rare.
Oh, what an amazing
And now recently,
thing.
with the explosion of the latest crew that tried to went down there, sadly, I'm not sure we'll see it again. I may not see it in my lifetime.
Jeez, that is incredible. What a story. And I have to go back to your famous people and all the people that you get to rub elbows with. Who is the most shocking that you might have thought that person isn't nice or that person is nice? Who kind of surprised you with not being what you thought they were?
Do you know, I'm not going to answer it, but I'm going to answer it hopefully in the best way that you want. The trouble with celebrities is that they have no idea what you want. And you've already got an idea what you want. Like if you think about your favorite celebrity, they may not be your favorite celebrity. They just may have played a character that you really fell in love with. There's nothing like them. So you're going up to someone thinking, well, Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so here's the problem. I've been stood with some very powerful, famous people when you've suddenly had someone coming towards them and it actually intimidates the famous person, because the famous person's now thinking, oh my God, here we go. What do they want? Do they want an endorsement? Do they want a photograph? Do they want a selfie? Do they want me to invest in that product? What do they want? Do they want to marry me? You just literally have no idea. So that person comes up to them. The famous person's all kind of like guarded, and they're trying to talk. You're trying to understand, well, what do they want? I don't know this person. Are they going to be happy just with a handshake and a photo and they can bugger off? I don't know. And then you walk away going, well, that person's grumpy. The simple
That's
fact is,
amazing. I love that.
when you're on that side of the fence, you get to see it differently.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time, if you ever want to meet someone, and I'm talking about someone that doesn't know who you are, but is in power. Now, I'm talking about someone that's the head of your local parent committee, someone that's the head of the Oscars, rocks. It does not matter. It could be someone that's very popular in your high street. This is how you do it. You walk up to them and you go, hey, how you doing? My name is Steve Sims and you don't know me. The second you tell them you don't know me, it takes the pressure off them. And then you turn around and go, let me tell you why I'm interrupting you. Now you're telling them what you want. Would it be okay if I got a selfie? Hey, would it be okay if I recorded a happy birthday to my niece? Hey, I've got a book coming out. I'd love you to do it. If you quickly tell people that you don't know who they are, or they don't know who you are and what you want, it now allows them to go, yes, I will do that video to you. Yeah, let's get a selfie. And they can then relax because they know there's no hidden agenda because you just called it out direct.
I love that. That is great advice. Thank you
But
for
it's
that.
not just celebrity, it's anybody.
No, you're right. I love that you put that across the board. You're right.
It has to be. You run a podcast. How many times have people run up to you? They talk to you like they know you, but you've never met them.
Yes.
Does that make you feel comfortable or uncomfortable?
I'm actually an entertainer in this area, and I've been doing comedy for 25 years and improv. And so people in the audience see me, but I cannot see them generally.
Right.
And then they see you in the store when you're not presentable, but you ran to the store anyway.
Yep.
It's so embarrassing. And yes, you're just like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just me, just just trying to get
Exactly.
candy. Yeah.
Exactly. So
And
it
in
can
no
make
way
you
am
feel
I
uncomfortable.
famous, but I am kind of known, and I'm not always funny when I'm just at the store.
There you go.
I love it. All right, tell people about your podcast, The Art of Making Things Happen.
That's just my manipulative way to be able to have conversations with people way more interesting than me. Um, I'll never take it seriously. I'll never sell sponsorships. I'll never, take on banner ads or anything like that. It'll change the way I do it. But I interviewed a guy last week that runs the most successful real estate industry in Vegas.
Ooh,
And then a couple of weeks before that, I interviewed a prostitute. And then a little bit before that, an AI expert from Cornell. And then before that, a hitman from the mafia. So
nice. Wow.
I liked, if someone's interesting, I want to have a conversation. And I want to
Absolutely.
know, how did you do this? Why did you do this? How did that happen? So I like to just, I call it the art of making things happen, the podcast. I just want people to have conversations with people that they never thought they would ever have a conversation with.
Yes, I align with that. And it's my free pass to be as nosy as I want to be,
Oh, yes.
which leads me to asking you if you would share either a dare or a prank story or one of those legendary tales that you love to talk about when you have how many Harleys? 30 Harleys, whatever you have.
I have a lot of motorcycles. I actually only have 2 Harleys, but I have a lot of
Wow.
other ones as well. Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
nice. So when you're out cruising and you got to share those stories and everybody does the one up.
Wow. I don't, pranks and those kind of things, I'm probably not very good because I'm doing stuff that people don't think you could be able to do in any case. And that's because of their standards. Okay. I'm a great believer that getting a no is not going to put me in hospital. So I go for no's as many times as I can until you're bored, and then you just go, well, okay then. I will say one time I had a client, very powerful man in Europe, and he wanted to go into Florence to have a Italian meal. And he said to me, I don't know Florence very well, but I need to make it the most amazing dining experience that can be done so that no one can ever beat me again in the future. I was like, yeah, okay, so a little bit of a competitive streak he had on him. And so I wanted to see how crazy I could do, hence go for stupid. Go for the most ridiculous thing that is out of your range, and then surprise yourself by how many times you actually get it. I actually ended up taking over the Accademia de Galleria, the museum that houses the most iconic statue in the world, Michelangelo's David, set a table of 6 up at the feet of Michelangelo's David so that he could have dinner at 9 o'clock at night underneath the most amazing statue in one of the world's most famous museums. And then for shits and giggles, I thought I'd push it further. And I managed to get Andrea Bocelli to come in and serenade him while he was eating his main course.
Come on.
So
You
those are the
made
kind of
that
things
up.
I.
That's for real?
That's absolutely for real.
That's
It's in the
crazy.
book. It's in the
Yeah.
book. It's probably on video somewhere. I know there's pictures, but yeah. And the daft thing is, I never expected to get the yes, but I also never expected to get the no. There's this cockiness to go, oh, it can never go wrong for me. I didn't want to put myself to that challenge, So, hey, they may say yes, they may say no. I don't know. But because I was living on that middle ground and I dared to ask,
Yes.
I got a yes way more times than I got a no. And of course, when you get used to those yeses, what happens? You just automatically, because people can read it. You're asking for something kind of a bit weird and wacky, and they're like, there's something about this guy that says he's done this before. We better just say yes. And so you end up getting more yeses, and you start, how the bloody hell did I get that? And it's quite surprising. You get what you ask for.
Is that similar to the first book, Bluefishing? You reference asking why 3 times. So is that similar to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Bluefishing was, I have a giggle because when I got asked to write the book, for any of you out there that are writing a book, it's tough. You got to come up with kind of like an overview. You got to come up with maybe one or two chapters. You got to find an agent. You got to find a publisher. It's tough. I didn't get that because I was literally at a bar. I told this girl a story. I was with my wife. She just happened to be part of a major publishing house. And a week
Oh,
later, they offered, would I write a book? And I was like,
aw.
yeah, okay then. But I didn't think anyone would ever buy it. So I've anyone in the publishing world, they will know the difference. I front loaded the crap out of this book. So I didn't want to keep the stories. I didn't want to keep intellectual rights. And so every time I unticked a box, I kind of got another 10 or 20 grand given to me as an advance.
Nice.
So I'm like, oh, this is so we made a bucket. Now, bit of a warning. I'd have made about 7 times that amount of money now had I not ticked those boxes, but I didn't think anyone would buy it.
Isn't
So
that
two
something?
things happened. One, I didn't think it was going to sell. So I got to write the book I wanted to write. And because
Mhm.
I'd got so much money up front, I was like, I'm fine. So I had no pressure and could now write. And so if someone went, well, could you be a little bit more, could you open that up to catch a wider audience? No, this is what it is. It does this and it went there. And I just wanted to be as blunt and as bold as there. So I
Yes.
would put stuff in there that I thought to myself, no one's going to buy this book. Or when they do, they're going to read that section like the ask why 3 times. And they're going to go, well, everybody does that. Why am I reading? There's nothing new in that until I wrote it. And then I suddenly realized that people were not doing that. And people were contacting me from all over the world going, I read that chug test. I read the ask why 3 times. I read about this and Elton. And oh my God, I never thought of that. I read about the hotel stationery. Oh, I never thought. And I'm thinking, what? How the hell are you not doing the simplest stuff in the world? And people weren't. They were overcomplicating everything. So
Mm.
that book I actually got translated, I think, into 8 different versions, and they all became bestsellers. And I ended up with a fan club in Japan.
Oh,
It
nice.
was hysterical that we ended up doing some Zoom. None of them could speak to me, so I had a translator, and it was hysterical. But yeah, we did it there, Korea, Mandarin Chinese, Thai, all over the place. And it took off. And I was very happy that it
Yeah.
took off. But of course, then you start doing the calculations and going, oh, I've lost a lot of money. But had I not taken the money, maybe I wouldn't have had the stress taken off of me, and maybe I wouldn't have actually written the book that I should have wrote. And then, of course, last year, I wrote Go for Stupid, and that's doing the exact same thing. So I'm very happy with that.
That's right. We want more Steve. We don't want other people writing your book, mister. There's only one
Right.
you. I love it. I got so many great quotes out of this podcast, and I can't wait to highlight and share the episode. And
Good.
it's been really a delight to meet you. You're a patient
Pleasure.
man. You are a good
And you
person.
were right, by the way.
Say it. Say it, Steve.
Okay, you're charming.
Oh my gosh, I really appreciate you. I am honored to have chatted with Steve Sims today. And remember, we can only be strangers once, and I invite you to stay weird.
Bye.